So growing up in my large, loud, noisy Italian-American family, both my parents come from big families, which meant that when it came to the high festival days, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, inevitably, my sister and I, my mom and dad, would be traveling to one side of the family or the other to be packed into a house with lots of kids running around everywhere and eating, for lack of a better term, a feast. Because there were, my mother's side of the family, for example, my Grandpa George, Grandma Marion, their house in North St. Paul was tiny for all the kids they had and then all the grandkids that followed. So you had the dining room table, and then you had a couple of those old church banquet tables, the ones that weighed a metric ton to move, that Grandpa got at the church garage sale one year. So pulled out a couple of those, and then card tables, wherever you could scrawl and sneak some room. Grandma was at one end of the table, at the head, closest to the kitchen, so she could get up and restock whatever needed to be refilled. Grandpa was at the other end. Grandpa'd look at Grandma, Grandma'd look at Grandpa, and we would eat. Homemade ravioli, homemade Italian sausage, a mountain of meatballs, platters of spaghetti, platters of rigatoni, stuffed peppers, salads that were tossed in vinegar and oil, and then every kind of vegetable, a mountain of desserts off to the side, and Grandpa always poured the wine. Big jug of Carlo Rossi, and even the kids could get these itty-bitty tiny little snifter glasses. Then you switched over to milk. And we'd all sit down, and then loud, and then it's time to pray, because we're like sharks, just getting ready to go for this thing. Say the prayers, and then there's that inevitable, can you pass the ravioli? More sausage, please. Hey, I need some of those stuffed peppers. But once everybody got their stuff, the volume went right down, and the only thing you heard was plates and silverware and people eating. And that's when Grandma would smile the most. However, one particular feast, we were eating, and all of a sudden, the noise built up. You see, my grandfather, my dyed-in-the-wool Democrat labor union man, discovered that two of his sons, my uncles, became Republicans. And the energy level went from spirited to antagonistic to World War III. My grandma, not to be deterred, went, got up from the table. And my grandfather was looking away from where she was coming because he's, gesturing to his sons. And that's just getting hot and heavy. He doesn't see how she's coming down the side of the table, and we're all watching. She grabs a platter of spaghetti, my grandpa's favorite, comes up alongside, and proceeds to take about a third of that platter and dump it on his plate. He finally looks up and says, "What are you doing?" She said, "Be quiet and eat." He looks daggers at her. She looks daggers at him. He grabs his fork and he starts shoveling in pasta into his mouth because he loved that spaghetti more than he loved the argument. She comes walking back down the table looking like a tigress, eyeballing my uncle saying, "I dare you. I got more of this." She goes to her spot. She sits back down. A whole bunch of us are just trying not to giggle out loud. And peace reigns again on the family. Whether you've been at big, loud, noisy home dinners or your festival dinners are fairly small, there's something about a feast, because we all have that experience, the common experience of eating. But to eat together says something about what we're going to hear in the scriptures today. You see, when you sat down at Grandpa and Grandma's table and you had that feast, obviously the first thing is it's nourishment. There's good food and a whole lot of it. And if you went away hungry, it was your own fault. that there was plenty of great food for the taking, and it was there to be eaten. It was there to be enjoyed. It was there to strengthen us, nourish us, because you need your strength. You need to eat. That sense of being nourished was part and parcel of the deal. But then there's a second part to it, and it's being united. That was a big deal for my grandma. To see all of her kids, to see all of their kids, to see the family, to be together. That was what she worked for and slaved over that stove for weeks prior. To have her family there, to be all together and to be united. Even when a little argument breaks out at one end of the table. To be connected. To recognize the blessing of those relationships. The power of those connections. And to draw together for at least a moment in time with peace as one family. That sense of unity that makes us stronger. It gives us a handle on who we are and what we are about. But finally, after you've enjoyed the meal and there's a whole group of an army of people cleaning up and doing dishes and tearing down the tables and moving back the folding chairs and getting everything kind of put back the way it needs to, one by one, the families would peel off. Some of us had a long drive. Sometimes it was just, work is tomorrow and there's life going on and the kids have schoolwork and we've got to do our things. That you come together, you enjoy the feast, and then it's time to go back into different parts of our life. It's time to get back out into the needs of the world. We've come together, now we go on our way. That sense of being empowered to go out into the world. 3 things: nourished, united, empowered. See, the power behind this, friends, is it's not just true for our dinner tables, it's true for the Lord's table. See, Jesus Christ sits at the head of his table, and he comes to feed us. He comes to be present to us. He comes to nourish, to unite, and to empower. We need food to eat. We need for our strength. We need our spiritual food to eat, because we need that for our strength too. Because we've all got challenges. We've all got obstacles. We've all got difficulties and trials. We've got highs and we got lows. And if we're going to face that with power, we come to the table. If we're going to deal with the stuff of life, then let's do it with the help of Christ. Let's let his body strengthen our body. His blood flow through our veins. That we allow the Lord of the universe, who comes to us, to strengthen us up, because we got work to do. But then secondly, we need each other. We can't do this alone. The minute we think we can go solo, we're lost. That divided, we get torn up. It's when we are united, we are strong. It's when we are connected that we have a power and a depth to see things clearly and to be able to face obstacles that by ourselves would crush us. We need each other. And when we gather at his table together, you are my neighbor, my brother, my sister, my friend. We are a family of faith. And we come to the Lord's table not just for strength individually, but to be united in strength collectively. And in that unity, we discover new strength, new growth, new life. But finally, we come to this table to go out into the world. We're supposed to be empowered here to live out there. That we're supposed to make a difference. That we're not here to take up oxygen. We're here to take the gift of our lives and engage it wherever we find ourselves located today. Whatever is before us today, that what happens at this altar is meant to change us, transform us, and renew us to face the situations of life with Christ by our side. To engage the world as a person of faith, that we make a difference in what is before us with God's help and God's grace. It's not just that we're supposed to be strong for ourselves. That strength is meant to be lived and shared. We're not just united here within our own little ghetto. We're meant to be united to go out there and bring light to those in need. Christ feeds us. And folks, when we come today to receive our communion, to be nourished, to be united, and to be empowered, may the Lord give us what we need today to face whatever is before us today, this week, this month, this year, this life, that we know that Christ will give us what we need to face it with His love. God help us. God bless us all.